It started with the hum, that sterile, fluorescent sound that only hospitals know how to make. The kind that drills through your skull and whispers, "You're not supposed to feel safe here." I remember sitting there, staring at the wall behind Dr. Meredith's head. Same beige paint, same tired clock. My checkup had been routine. Blood work, blood pressure, the kind of visit men my age pretend is about health when it's really about guilt. My wife had made the appointment, said I'd been forgetful. I told her it was just stress. I didn't know then that stress had a face, a car, and a silencer. Meredith didn't look up for a long time. Her hand trembled slightly over the keyboard. "You've been involved in the trial longer than most," she said. Her voice tried to sound casual, but I'd been a researcher long enough to recognize the sound of someone biting their own tongue. Then she printed something. A single sheet, folded it once, neat, slid it across the table without meeting my eyes. "Don't go home," she whispered. "Run!" I laughed at first. A nervous, stupid kind of laugh. "Meredith, what is this, a joke?" Her eyes flicked to the security camera in the corner. Then she leaned forward. Her breath smelled like mint and fear. "They're coming for you. You signed something you shouldn't have. Just," she glanced again. "Go out the back, now." My throat tightened. "Who's they?" But she was already on her feet, pretending to search drawers for a file she'd never find. The door handle turned. Two voices outside, low, calm, professional. The kind of calm that gets paid by the hour. Meredith's whisper hit harder than any gunshot. "Please go." I left everything. My coat, my appointment card, even my wallet on the counter. Stepped through the back hall, the one used for deliveries, not escapes. The air smelled of antiseptic and rain. My shoes squeaked against the tile, loud enough to feel hunted. Outside, the parking lot gleamed under drizzle. Every car looked unfamiliar, predatory. I moved fast, head down, like a man pretending not to exist. The note in my pocket felt radioactive. "Don't go home. Run." I didn't run. Not yet. I drove. The kind of drive where your brain's behind you, still sitting in that office asking, "What just happened?" Halfway to the intersection, I saw them. A black sedan, tinted windows, following at a polite distance. The kind of politeness that only killers and debt collectors master. I turned once. Then again. The car followed both times. My hand went for my phone. I called my wife, voicemail. Called again, straight to busy. I switched to the house line. Still nothing. Then the third call, to a colleague at the lab. He answered, breathless. "Jesus, Daniel, where the hell are you?" "What's happening?" Silence. A muffled voice behind him. Then the line died. That's when I saw it. The reflection in the side mirror. Headlights accelerating. I cut into an alley and parked behind a dumpster, engine still running. Rain hammered the windshield like it was angry I hadn't listened sooner. I took out the note again, reading it as if a second look would make it make sense. But all it did was make my hands shake. Meredith's handwriting and looping steady. Too calm for panic. Too deliberate, I turned it over. On the back, in faint pencil, something new. Storage 18, the red file. A chill slid down my spine. Storage 18, our off-site data facility, 20 miles north. My name was still on the access logs, but I hadn't been there in years. The thunder cracked above me, loud enough to wake something inside I'd buried long ago. The instinct that once made me dangerous. I shifted into gear. Half an hour later, the highway stretched empty, the storm chasing me like a rumor. I kept glancing at the glove compartment where I'd stuffed the note. The words pulsed in my head with every mile. I didn't know what I was running from, but I knew what I couldn't run back to: my house, my wife, my daughter. I saw their faces in the blur of headlights, her sleepy smile when she made me tea, my daughter's voice saying, "Night, Dad," from the top of the stairs. Simple, harmless moments that now looked like targets. At mile marker 40, a sudden flash of red and blue filled the mirrors. Sirens. Instinct said, "Stop." Logic said, "Die." I chose logic. Tires screeched as I veered off onto a service road, mud splattering the windshield. The patrol car sped past, oblivious. But I knew better. There are no coincidences in a manhunt. When I finally stopped, I let myself breathe. The air inside the car felt like it had been stolen. I checked my reflection in the rear view. My eyes were bloodshot, older. like they'd just met the truth before the rest of me did. I whispered it out loud because saying it made it real. They're not coming for what I did. They're coming for what I know! Thunder rolled again, closer this time, not from the sky but from the road behind. Headlights, different car, same hunger. I floored the accelerator. The storm didn't chase me this time. I chased it. The road ahead was a sheet of black glass, slick and endless. Lightning tearing the horizon open like an exposed nerve. I drove blind on instinct, each flash showing me just enough to make the next mistake. My phone buzzed once, an unknown number. I let it ring out. Whatever voice waited on the other end already knew where I was going. The only question was whether I'd survive getting there. Storage 18 sat behind the old research complex, fenced off, floodlights humming in the rain. I used to come here for progress reports, back when I still believed in words like progress. Tonight, the gate creaked open like it remembered me. The keypad was dead, but the storm had loosened the hinges, nature's quiet permission. Inside, the air was thick with damp paper and metal fatigue. The hall smelled like mold and secrets. My flashlight jittered across row after row of numbered lockers until it stopped at a faded label, 18. The padlock was new, industrial, ugly. I pulled a crowbar from a maintenance cart and wedged it in. The metal screamed. My breath fogged in the cold, and for a moment, I could almost hear Meredith's voice. "Don't go home! Run!" The lock snapped. The door swung open, heavy as guilt. Inside sat a single red file, just like she wrote. No dust, no cobwebs. Someone had been here recently. I reached for it. The folder was still warm. I opened it. The first page wasn't data. It was a photo. Me standing beside a man in a suit I didn't recognize, shaking hands in front of a banner. Helix Initiative. Cures for tomorrow. I flipped another page. Research summaries, contracts, my own initials. But the words beneath them didn't belong to medicine. They belonged to logistics, distribution, military partnerships. A whole section labeled Deployment Viability. Deployment. My work wasn't curing anything. It was designed to survive. Not patients, not people, but pathogens. They'd used my formula to make something that couldn't die, and I'd signed every form that made it legal. I staggered back, hand to my chest, feeling the world tilt. The hum of the building grew louder, or maybe it was my pulse. I could see it all now. The grant that came too easy, the sudden government liaison, the insistence on security protocols. They hadn't funded me. They'd recruited me, a soft click behind me. I turned. Two silhouettes stood at the door, rain dripping off their coats. One of them held my wallet. "Dr. Hale," the taller one said, calm, precise. "You've been difficult to reach." I didn't answer. The folder hung at my side, bleeding red ink onto my fingers. "We're here for the documents," he continued, "and to escort you somewhere safe." Safe, I repeated, my voice shaking between rage and disbelief. "That what you call it now?" The second man smiled. "Depends on whether you cooperate." Lightning flared again, showing me their faces. Government clean, mercenary cold. I stepped backward toward the metal shelves, mind racing. No weapons, no backup, just rain and fear. But fear's useful when you know how to aim it. "Meredith sent me," I said, watching their eyes flicker. "She said there's more than one copy." That made them hesitate. A heartbeat. That's all I needed. I threw the folder at the taller man. Paper burst like shrapnel. While he flinched, I hit the light switch. Darkness swallowed us whole. The next minute existed in flashes, flashlight beams cutting through dust, boots scuffing metal, the tang of ozone. I ran down the aisle, ducking behind a cabinet. Something crashed behind me, a shelf toppling, boxes spilling. "Dr. Hale!" One of them shouted. "You can't hide. We already have your wife." The words froze me mid-step. My chest clenched. They were bluffing. They had to be. "My wife wasn't even," another voice, closer this time. "She called us before she disappeared. You remember that?" No, she hadn't. The sound of their footsteps came nearer. My mind blurred between past and present, between guilt and instinct. I remembered her voice, the one that used to calm me after late nights at the lab. You're not saving the world, Daniel. You're just keeping it alive long enough to sell it. Maybe she'd known. Maybe she'd tried to warn me before Meredith did. A flashlight beam swept across my face. I ducked, swung the crowbar. Metal met bone. The man went down hard. The other shouted, fired, a deafening crack that shattered glass and memory. The bullet grazed my shoulder. The sting was bright, sobering. I swung again, wild, desperate, until both of them were still. Silence. Only the rain dared to move. Heidi dropped to my knees, breathing fire, my hand pressed to my bleeding arm. The flashlight rolled, flickering against the concrete. The red folder lay open beside me, its contents soaked and ruined. But beneath it, another file. Blue, smaller, tucked deep inside the shelf. Curiosity's a disease of its own. I opened it, a photo of my wife, smiling, date-stamped 2 days ago. The caption underneath, asset confirmed alive. Relocation scheduled. My mouth went dry. The air left the room. She was alive, or at least she had been when they took her. A phone buzzed in one of the fallen men's pockets. I grabbed it. Unknown caller ID. I answered. A woman's voice, calm, measured. "Dr. Hale," she said. "You were told not to go home. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. We can still fix this," she continued. "But not if you keep fighting. Go to the house across the street. We'll explain everything." The line clicked dead. The rain had stopped. For the first time all night, I realized what terrified me most wasn't that I'd been hunted. It was that someone, somewhere, was still expecting me to listen. The rain had slowed to a whisper by the time I stepped outside. It wasn't mercy, it was exhaustion. The sky looked bruised, the kind of gray that feels personal. My shoulder throbbed, shirt clinging wet to the wound. I tightened my coat around it, hiding the pain the same way I'd hidden everything else, neatly, quietly, just out of sight. The road was empty. No cars, no witnesses. Only puddles reflecting the dying glow of the storage unit's security lights. The 2 men inside wouldn't be waking up soon, and I didn't have time to see if they ever would. The blue file sat under my arm, still damp. Her photo, my wife's photo, pressed against my chest like a heartbeat I couldn't let go of. Across the street, a payphone blinked faintly under a flickering bulb. I hadn't seen one in years. It buzzed once, like it was waiting for me. I knew better than to believe in coincidences anymore. I picked it up. "Hale," I said, my voice half gone, static. Then, "Good. You're alive." It was Meredith. "Where is she?" I asked. "Not safe," she said, "but not lost. They wanted leverage. You gave them something better." "What did I give them?" A pause, then softly. "The formula. But not the real one, right?" My throat tightened. I remembered the trial, the endless revisions, the secret version I'd coded for myself, the backup that cured too well. The one I never submitted. She exhaled relief. "Then you still have control. That means they can't kill you." "Not yet." "Meredith, listen to me," I said, leaning against the phone booth, hand shaking. "I found something in storage 18. They had pictures of her, recent ones." "I know," she said. "That's how they keep you obedient," thunder murmured far off, rolling like the sound of slow applause. "What do they want?" "You to stop asking questions," she said, "and to hand over what's left of your conscience." The line crackled. Then she whispered something I almost didn't catch. "The house across the street." And the line went dead again. I drove without headlights, keeping close to the shadows, following memory instead of directions. The house across the street. It didn't make sense until it did. Across from my own home, there was an old rental, empty for months, maybe longer. A foreclosure with broken blinds and a mailbox that leaned like it was tired of bad news. If someone wanted to watch my family, that's where they'd do it. By the time I reached my neighborhood, dawn was bruising the horizon. The sky wasn't blue yet, just bleeding into it. My driveway looked wrong, too still. My wife's car wasn't there. I parked 1 block away, walked the rest. Every step felt like trespassing on my own life. From the shadows of the opposite house, I saw my living room window. The curtains were open. Inside, the lamp was on. The picture frames on the mantel, our family, smiling versions of ghosts. I should have felt anger. But what I felt was smaller, quieter, like the calm before something final. I crept up to the rental house's porch. The air smelled like mildew and salt. The lock was cheap. The crowbar did the rest. Inside, darkness. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, swinging slightly. And beneath it, equipment, monitors, headsets. A table lined with drives, each labeled with dates. My dates. There were folders named after every project I'd ever touched, every patient I'd ever treated. And there, under a small lamp, was a laptop still running. The screen displayed a paused video feed. It was me, sitting in my car outside Storage 18. The feed time stamped less than an hour ago. They'd been watching. Always. And then the feed flickered. Changed. Now it showed my home. The door opening, my wife, alive, pale, shaking, her hand clutching something small and metallic. She was talking to someone off camera. Then a voice answered her. Male, smooth, familiar. Daniel's running out of time, the man said. Either he brings it back, or we bring her. My stomach turned to lead. The man stepped into frame, my old research partner, Andrew. He smiled like this was all business. Like betrayal was just another data point. The feed cut to black. For a moment, the silence pressed so heavy it felt solid. The hum of the machines, the faint buzz of the light, every sound was a countdown. I leaned on the table, staring at the blank screen, and the truth settled in. This wasn't about curing anyone. It never was. It was about control. Who gets to live and who gets to run. My hand brushed against one of the drives. A small red sticker labeled Project Phoenix. I didn't know what was on it, but I knew what it meant. Resurrection, reuse, repetition. If I gave this to them, maybe they'd let her live. But I'd just be restarting the fire somewhere else. If I destroyed it, maybe I'd stop them. But I'd lose her. And then the memory came back. Like a knife twisted in reverse, the day she told me to stop working late, to stop chasing glory. Her voice trembling as she said, "One day, your cure will kill more than it saves." She was right. She always was. I pocketed the drive. Outside, the first light of morning touched the edges of my home's window. For a moment, it looked warm, peaceful. The illusion of safety, still intact. I whispered to no one. You told me not to go home, but I can't save her from anywhere else. I stepped out into the dawn, the wind cold against the blood drying on my shoulder. Behind me, the monitor blinked back to life. A text scrolled across the screen, letter by letter, like it was being typed by the storm itself. Running was never the plan. I've crossed 100 streets in my life, but never one that felt like this. Every step toward my house felt like trespass, every breath like confession. Dawn was lifting the mist off the pavement, but it wasn't light. Not really. Just exposure, the kind of gray that lets truth seep in. I stood in the middle of the road, the world split clean down the center. One side home, one side watchtower. Behind me, the rental house crouched like a spy that had fallen asleep with its eyes open. Ahead, the home I built with my own hands. Still standing, still lying. I could smell coffee through the cracks in my front door. My wife always brewed too early. Always said the sound of the percolator meant safety. But safety doesn't smell like that anymore. It smells like old steel, wet soil, and panic you can't quite name. I gripped the drive in my pocket. Project Phoenix. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet. All I knew was that if Andrew wanted it, it didn't belong to him. When I stepped onto the porch, I hesitated. My reflection in the glass didn't look like me anymore. Too many years, too many mistakes. My hand hovered over the knob like it needed permission. Then, a sound. A chair scraping inside. A soft curse. Her voice. She was alive. "Anna," I whispered as I opened the door. She turned, slow, eyes wide. Not in joy, but calculation. She had a bruise near her temple, faint but new. Her hand tightened around a phone that wasn't hers. "Daniel," she breathed, relief mixing with terror. "You shouldn't be here." I could say the same to you. I closed the door behind me. The house was too clean, too quiet. Every framed picture had been straightened, even the ones I hadn't touched in years. The smell of lemon polish again, just like Meredith's office. She noticed me noticing. "They've been here," she said. "They're coming back." "Who?" "Your friend," she spat, the word sour. "Andrew." My stomach nodded. She looked older, thinner, the kind of tired that comes from carrying secrets, not suitcases. "He said you stole something. Something dangerous." "He's right," I said. "But he forgot to mention he built it with me." Her shoulders dropped. "Daniel, please," I cut her off. "Where's Emily?" She blinked. "Our daughter?" "Yes, is she here?" She shook her head. "They took her. Said she'd be safe if I stayed quiet. Every cell in my body froze. The air itself turned cruel." "When?" "Last night. They called after you left the hospital. They knew you'd run." "Of course they did. They knew everything." My fingers tightened around the drive in my pocket until I felt the plastic flex. Anna reached out, voice cracking. "You can't fight them." "Not like this." I stepped back. "Then tell me how." "Because the last time I didn't fight, I built their weapon for them." "Meredith said you'd say that," she whispered. The sound of her name hit like a slap. "You've spoken to Meredith?" "She called me. Said to get you out if you came home. She's playing both sides." "No," Anna said. "She's surviving both sides." Lightning flickered in the distance again, silent this time, like a memory repeating itself. "Where did they take her?" I asked again, lower, sharper. She hesitated. "Look toward the study." I followed her gaze. The door was ajar. My study. The place I'd written every grant, every lie, every promise to heal the world. It smelled faintly of burned paper. I pushed the door open. The wall above my desk was bare. The photo of our family, gone. The shelves, half empty. And on the floor, the remains of what used to be my desktop computer. The tower was gutted, wires pulled out like veins, but they'd left one thing, a single envelope taped to the monitor stand, my name, Daniel Hale. Inside, a photo. Emily, standing beside a car, blindfolded. A timestamp 04:17 a.m., and a note written in Andrew's handwriting, "You have until sundown. Bring Phoenix. Alone." My pulse turned electric. Anna's voice was small behind me. "He said if you come, they'll trade." "And if I don't?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. I stared at the photo until the edges blurred. My daughter, my reason for all of this, caught in the crossfire of my salvation project. I used to tell her stories about heroes who built things to save people. Now she'd learn what happens when those things get stolen. The drive felt heavier in my pocket. Anna stepped closer. "You can't give it to them. It's not just a cure anymore, is it?" "No," I said. "It's evolution." We stood there, silence stretching between us like a tightrope. Then, headlights washed over the front windows. A car, black, parked at the end of the driveway. Anna flinched. "Daniel, I see them." 3 doors opened. Shadows stepped out. I grabbed her arm, dragging her toward the back hallway. "Go! Out through the kitchen! Where will you—" "End it," I said. "Before they do." She hesitated, eyes glassy with fear. "What if they don't take me seriously?" "Then they'll take this," I said, holding up the drive. She looked at it like it was alive. "And if they take it, they'll take her too." I forced a smile I didn't feel. "Not if I burn it first." They knocked twice, calm, deliberate. I opened the front door before the third. Andrew stood there, immaculate as ever, umbrella resting against his shoulder like a trophy. The pay. Other 2 men from before flanked him, their suits still damp from the night. "Daniel," he said, "you look awful." Occupational hazard. His smile barely moved. "You've made this messy. You made it first." He tilted his head, studying me the way he used to study petri dishes. Detached, curious, already thinking of replacements. You have something that belongs to me. You mean the formula that can kill a city or cure a planet? I asked. Depends on who's holding it. Andrew sighed. You still moralize, after all this time. You still monetize. His jaw tightened. Bring me the drive and I'll bring you your daughter. Proof of life. He snapped his fingers. One of the men pulled out a phone and pressed play. Emily's voice. Faint. Crying. Dad? Then static. The man pocketed the phone again. Andrew smiled thinly. Satisfied? My heart didn't beat. It detonated. Meet me at the river bridge, he said. Sundown. Alone. Or she disappears for good. He turned, motioning for his men to leave. The umbrella never wavered. Before he reached the car, I called out, You forgot something. He turned slightly. I held up the note Meredith had given me, the one that started all this. This warning wasn't for me, I said. It was for you. He paused, that smug calm flickering for the first time. Is that supposed to mean something? It will, I said. He gave me that same dead smile and walked away. The car doors shut. The engine roared to life. When the sound faded, I finally let the tremor in my hands show. Anna stepped out from behind the door, eyes wet. What will you do? I looked out. The window toward the horizon where the river ran. The same river where I once took Emily fishing when she was 8. Where she asked me if science could bring back what we lose. I'm going to teach him, I said quietly, that some things aren't his to own. Outside, the sky began to brighten, gold bleeding into the storm's edge. It was almost beautiful. I slipped the drive into my pocket and whispered, Sundown. The house exhaled around me, as if it knew this would be the last time I called it home. You ever walk into a place so quiet that your heartbeat starts sounding like guilt? That's what it felt like the moment I stepped into the storage unit. The lock hung open, not broken, just waiting. Dust curled in the flashlight beam like cigarette smoke, heavy and familiar. The air was thick with old metal, oil, and something else. Memory. I'd been here before. Not physically, maybe, but somewhere inside the mind. That cold place where secrets wait for their owner to grow brave enough to return. The unit was smaller than I remembered. Cardboard boxes lined the walls like coffins for old truths. A rusted fan in the corner ticked weakly, blades stuck mid-turn. I pushed the door closed behind me. It groaned like it disapproved. And then I saw it. On the back shelf, under a tarp, a metal case, her handwriting on a strip of masking tape. For Daniel. Only if I don't come back. My throat went dry. I'd seen her write that same looping D hundreds of times, on grocery lists, birthday cards, patient notes. The ink had faded, but the weight hadn't. I pulled the case down and set it on the floor. The latches snapped open with a reluctant click, the way a wound might reopen when you thought it had healed. Inside, not cash, not letters, a single flash drive, black, no label, just one small engraving, a number, 0. And taped beneath it, a note in her handwriting. You'll need the password. You already know it. I did. God help me, I did. I found an old laptop buried under some lab journals and powered it on. The screen flickered like it hadn't seen light in years. I inserted the drive. A single folder appeared. Patient 0, no hesitation, just a click. The first file, a video log. Timestamp, 7 years ago. The image came up grainy. The lab I knew like my own hands, our lab. Stainless counters, biohazard labels, a shadow at the edge of the frame, and then her face, Anna, my wife, my partner, my ghost. She looked younger, sharper. Her eyes were tired in that way you only see in people who've started lying for the right reasons. If you're watching, this, she said, voice calm but low. Then they've turned it into something else. I froze. The air in the unit thickened, even the dust seemed to pause. We called it Phoenix because it was supposed to bring life back from the brink, cellular restoration, adaptive immunity, total repair. But they... She broke off, looked off screen. They found a way to reverse it, make it burn instead of heal. She swallowed hard, adjusting the camera. You told me once that science is just trust written down. I believed you. I wanted to keep believing you. But they made me sign papers. I didn't understand, and I was scared of what you'd find if you did. Her voice cracked then, just once. They said you wouldn't survive if you fought them, that they'd erase you from the program, from everything. So I erased something first, your access, your files, your link to patient zero. It's the only way I could save you from yourself. The feed glitched. Static chewed her last few words. Then her face froze, caught mid-breath. I stared until the screen dimmed. My reflection stared back. Older, harder, smaller. She'd hidden it all. Not from them, from me. The next file was labeled Sequence Log 05, MP4. My hand shook before I even opened it. A man sat in a medical chair, wrists restrained. His skin looked translucent, veins pulsing with light under the surface like fireflies trapped in flesh. His eyes moved, aware but wrong. Anna's voice came through, clinical but trembling. Subject A shows complete regenerative response. However, the neurological pattern is altered. The man turned his head toward the camera. His lips moved. The sound was garbled, but one word slipped through the distortion. Daniel. I slammed the lid shut. The sound echoed in the unit like a gunshot. My heart was pounding so loud it felt like the walls could hear it. I wiped my face with a trembling hand and realized I was sweating cold. The same kind of sweat that comes when the past decides it's not finished with you yet. She'd tested it on someone. Maybe under pressure, maybe by choice. And he knew my name, Patient Zero, not a test subject, a message. I reopened the laptop. The final file wasn't a video, just a text document titled Last Entry. Daniel, they know about the prototype. Andrew's been selling access to a private buyer. They've already built the viral variant. You have to disappear. If they can't find you, they can't finish it. I left the real data off-site. If you try to publish, they'll go after Emily next. Don't prove them right about you. I love you. Eh? The cursor blinked at the end like a pulse. I read it again and again, hoping the words might change. They didn't. The sound of thunder outside made the walls tremble. I wasn't alone. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. I turned off the laptop light and waited, heart hammering. A silhouette appeared against the door seam. Tall, motionless, the handle turned. Once, twice, then silence. I slipped the flash drive into my pocket and backed away, the laptop still warm in my hand. If I had to run, I'd leave everything else behind. The door creaked open a few inches. A breath of cold air slipped through. "Dr. Hale?" a man's voice said. Polite, careful, rehearsed. I didn't answer. He stepped inside, flashlight cutting through the dark. Black gloves, press badge, no badge name. "Sir, we just need to verify." I swung the rusted crowbar before he could finish. The flashlight fell, beam rolling across the floor. He stumbled back, groaning. Another voice outside shouted, "He's here!" That was my cue. I bolted through the side exit, the rain slapping against my face. Behind me, shouts, footsteps, engines. Ahead, darkness. I ran until my lungs burned, until the sound of pursuit faded into the hum of the city. I ducked beneath an underpass and leaned against the concrete, panting. My hands were shaking, but the flash drive was still there, still warm, still alive. She hid it for me, not because she didn't trust me, but because she did, because she knew I'd come looking. The truth was out now. My cure was never a cure. It was a weapon waiting for permission, and I'd given it to them the moment I believed they wanted to heal the world. I took out the drive, rain dripping down my wrist, and whispered into the storm. "You weren't saving yourself, were you, Anna?" The wind answered in the hollow voice of the bridge. "You were saving me." Back at the edge of the pier, I stared at the river, the flash drive in my palm. If I exposed it, the government, the companies, the hospitals, all of it, everything we built would collapse. My daughter's safety, our home, the illusion of legacy. But if I destroyed it, if I let this lie keep living, I'd be complicit in every life it took. The choice weighed heavier than the water. I could hear Anna again, the first night we met, when she told me medicine isn't about fixing death, it's about respecting it. I looked down at the black water, then at the flash drive. Somewhere behind me, a siren echoed, too close to be coincidence. I closed my fist around the drive, felt its edges bite into my skin. Maybe saving the world wasn't the goal anymore. Maybe saving what was left of my soul was enough. I slipped the drive into my jacket, turned toward the streetlights ahead, and whispered to the night, "Not yet. Not like this." Because sometimes the truth doesn't need to be told. It needs to be earned, and mine was still unfinished. You ever notice how hospitals sound different at night? Not quieter, just honest. The machines whisper truths they hide in daylight. The hum behind the walls becomes a confession, and every hallway smells like bleach trying to bury guilt. If you're still here, listening, don't look away. Because tonight I didn't go home. I went back to where it all began. To where I became both healer and executioner. The rain followed me. It always does. I parked 3 blocks away under a dead streetlight, wearing a uniform that used to be mine. The badge wasn't, but it would fool anyone too tired to care. Security guards don't ask questions at midnight, they just want to make it to sunrise. I slipped through the side entrance using a key card I shouldn't still have. The glass doors hissed open like they recognized me. The lobby was empty except for the faint buzz of the vending machine and the reflection of a man I barely knew anymore. My reflection. Each step echoed through the hall like a heartbeat I was forcing back to life. The fluorescent lights above flickered one by one as if warning me off, but I'd stopped taking warnings long ago. The restricted wing was darker, colder. No nurses, no interns, just the hum of ventilators and the mechanical sigh of machines pretending to breathe for the dying. I passed the plaque on the wall, Department of Experimental Immunogenetics. My department. My name had been scrubbed off the list years ago. I paused outside the double doors. The keypad blinked red, waiting. I entered the code I'd once designed. It still worked. Of course it did. Inside, the air changed. Thicker, sterile, but alive, like something unseen was exhaling in rhythm with me. The hum of servers, the distant beeping of monitors, I followed the sound. And then I saw it. Room 42B, frosted glass. Dim light spilling through from within. I pushed the door open and froze. It was still breathing. Not a patient, the experiment. The one they called Phoenix Sequence. The one I'd buried in my conscience and sworn never to see again. A figure lay suspended in a pod of fluid that pulsed faintly with light, veins of gold threading through the transparent liquid. The heartbeat monitor beside it spiked, steady, human. Its skin shimmered, translucent, like the edge of a flame refusing to die, and the face, God help me, it was a face I knew, not Andrew's, not a stranger's. Mine, a clone, a copy? No, worse. A backup. They hadn't just stolen my work, they'd stolen me. I stepped closer, unable to breathe. The thing's chest rose and fell with the same rhythm I'd lived by for 50 years. Every scar, every mole, every quiet imperfection, they'd rebuilt it perfectly, except for the eyes. They weren't mine. They were hers. Anna's. The realization sliced through me clean and cold. My wife had given them everything. My DNA, my data, my permission maybe even her silence. The lights flickered, and the reflection on the pod shifted. 2 faces merging, separating, accusing. That's when I heard it. "Daniel." The voice came from behind me. Calm. Smooth. A surgeon's confidence dressed as compassion. I turned. Andrew stood in the doorway, Coat unbuttoned, expression unreadable. "You never could stay away from your work," he said. I didn't move. "It's not work. It's desecration." He smiled faintly. "Big word for a man who started this. You turned my cure into a weapon." "No," he said, stepping closer. "I perfected it. You were too sentimental. Too afraid to accept what the world really needs. Control." The word felt like poison. "You made a virus that adapts. You turned healing into obedience." He shrugged, as if discussing weather. "Every civilization needs a leash, Daniel. You wanted to cure mortality. I wanted to cure chaos. You should thank me. I gave your discovery purpose." I took a step forward. "You gave it a body." His eyes flicked toward the pod. "We needed a viable host. Compatible tissue, immune to cellular rejection. You were the only one who qualified." "Because it's mine," I whispered. "You built this thing out of my cells." "Correction," he said. "Out of your gift." I felt the floor tilt beneath me. The pulse inside the pod synced with mine, slow, deliberate, mocking. "You copied my genome without consent. You're still stuck on consent?" His voice hardened. "You think history asks for permission? It asks for results. Look at it, look at you. The next step. The first man to live forever through his own invention." "Immortality isn't victory," I said. "It's punishment." He laughed softly. "Still poetic. That's what I liked about you. You made science sound like guilt." Lightning flashed through the skylight, bathing the room in white. The clone's eyes opened, gold and glassy, and looked straight at me. My breath caught. Andrew didn't flinch. "Beautiful, isn't it? She added her sequence before she died. Said it would humanize the strain." "She?" "Anna. She was the one who insisted we preserve your consciousness." I felt my knees weaken. "You told me she died protecting me." "She did," he said. "Just not in the way you think." The pod's heartbeat quickened, echoing mine. I could almost hear her voice layered beneath the monitor beeps. "Don't let them forget you." Andrew reached for the console, tapping a sequence. The pod's light flared brighter. "It's time you saw what we built." "No." "Don't be dramatic." I lunged. The impact knocked him backward into the wall. The console sparked, alarms shrieking to life. Red lights strobed across the ceiling. The fluid inside the pod boiled like breath caught in a scream. Andrew clawed at my arm, shouting, "You'll kill it!" "That's the point," I said. I slammed my hand onto the emergency release. The pod hissed, cracking open with a burst of mist and heat. The figure inside convulsed, gasping, a newborn sound, raw and ancient. Andrew stumbled to his feet. "You fool! It's not a clone, it's the host. The final stage!" The figure's eyes snapped open again, brighter now, burning. I stepped back, my heart hammering. "What did you do?" Andrew's voice trembled with awe. "I finished your work." The thing on the table sat up. Its skin glowed faintly, steam rising from its arms. It turned its head toward Andrew, then toward me. When it spoke, the voice was both of ours, layered and hollow. "Who am I?" Andrew smiled like a proud parent. "You're what humanity should be." I moved between them. "No, you're what it should never become." The alarms grew louder. Somewhere in the distance, guards shouted. The smell of ozone thickened as lights flickered overhead. Andrew reached for the control panel again, shouting over the noise. "You don't understand. This isn't death, Daniel. It's resurrection." I grabbed his wrist. "You don't resurrect the dead by replacing them?" He shoved me back, wild now, eyes shining with something close to madness. "You're obsolete." The figure stood, its bare feet hitting the tile with a wet slap. It looked at me, my face, my guilt, my failure, and whispered, "Father." Andrew froze. I took a step forward. "If I'm your father, then listen. You don't belong to him. You don't belong to anyone." Its expression flickered, confused. "Pain." "Yes," I said. "That means you're alive." Andrew lunged for the main switch, shouting, "I'll fix this!" He never reached it. The surge hit like a second sun. The monitors exploded. Sparks showered the room. For one blinding instant, everything, me, Andrew, the creature, was swallowed in white. When the light faded, Andrew lay crumpled beside the console, smoke curling from his jacket. The figure still stood, trembling, eyes dimming. "Daniel," it whispered. "You can stop it." I stared at my shaking hands, the blood, his, mine, someone's, dripping onto the floor. Stop what? It touched my chest, fingers leaving faint trails of light. The next one, and then it collapsed. I caught it before it hit the ground. Its skin felt warm, human, fragile. The light inside its veins flickered once, twice, and went dark. The alarms continued screaming. Red lights washed over everything like fresh guilt. Andrew wasn't moving. Smoke still rose from the fried circuits. I laid the body, my own reflection, onto the cold tile. For the first time in years, I prayed. Not for forgiveness, for finality. I stood, chest heaving, ears ringing. The intercom crackled to life with static and a voice I hadn't heard in months. "Dr. Hale, this is Control." "What have you done?" I looked up at the cameras blinking red. "I ended it," I said. The sirens howled louder. Somewhere down the hall, boots thundered closer. I picked up the drive from the console, the real one this time, and slipped it into my coat. My reflection stared back at me from the shattered glass. One man dead, one man duplicated, and somewhere in between, the ghost of the woman who tried to save me. Smoke filled the air. The sprinklers came on, raining cold water over fire. I stepped through the doorway as the first guard burst in. He shouted something I didn't hear. The only thing I heard was the sound of the pod's final heartbeat fading beneath the alarm, and then silence. By dawn, the hospital burned like a confession. Someone died, or maybe someone was finally reborn. Some mornings feel like an apology. This one didn't. The light came slow and soft, filtering through a motel curtain that hadn't been washed since truth still mattered. It wasn't warm light, it was gray, diluted, cautious. The kind of light that doesn't forgive, just forgets. On the TV, the news played like fiction written by someone with a grudge. "Doctor missing after biolab fire. Authorities suspect foul play." They didn't say my name out loud, but they didn't have to. They showed the footage, the hospital burning, the sirens, the ashes. Then a still image of me from a decade ago, smiling, lab coat clean, eyes full of purpose. The voiceover called me a controversial pioneer. That's what they say when they can't decide if you were a savior or a sinner. I muted the sound and stared at the photo. It looked like a stranger had stolen my face. On the nightstand, a folded note waited. Her handwriting. The one thing that survived every fire, literal and otherwise. I kept it in my wallet next to the ID I no longer used. The edges were frayed. The paper smelled faintly of smoke and regret. "Don't go home. Run." She wrote it the night before she died. At the time, I thought it meant hide. Now I know it meant live. I sat there, counting seconds between breaths, listening to the hum of the air conditioner fight for life. My hands still shook, maybe from the memory, maybe from the caffeine, maybe from the guilt that refused to die even when everything else had. They think I'm dead. Let them. It's safer this way. For Emily. For the few people left who still carry my last name like a burden. I pulled out the small recorder from my pocket, the one I used for patient notes. Old habit. I pressed record. "My name was Dr. Daniel Hale," I said. My voice came out quieter than I expected. "And if you're hearing this, Emily, I want you to know it wasn't cowardice." The red light blinked. One pulse for every lie I'd told myself. I didn't run because I was scared. I ran because I was the last firewall between what we made and what they wanted to use it for. They'll tell you I betrayed my oath, that I turned against my colleagues. But the truth is, I finally remembered what that oath meant. I stopped for a moment, rubbed my eyes. "Do you remember the day you fell off your bike? You were 9. You refused to cry until you saw the blood. Then you looked at me and said, 'You fix everyone else. Why can't you fix me?' I told you pain was proof you were healing. You didn't believe me then. Maybe now you will." The tape hissed softly, filling the silence like a confession booth. "I didn't fix humanity, sweetheart. I broke it. I gave them a tool to play God, and men like Andrew used it like a weapon. The only thing left for me to do was run before they used you to find me." I let the words sit. The motel clock ticked louder than it should have. "I'm not coming back," I whispered. "But that doesn't mean I'm gone." I stopped the recording, rewound it, and placed the recorder inside an envelope marked with her name. The address wasn't hers anymore, but she'd find it eventually. She always did. Outside, the world was still wet from last night's storm. The highway stretched like a scar through the hills, gray, endless, anonymous. I stood on the edge of it with my coat collar turned up and the note in my pocket, feeling like a ghost with a pulse. Passing cars didn't see me. That's the thing about running. You start to disappear even before you vanish. I walked to a diner that smelled like fried promises and burnt coffee. The waitress didn't ask questions. People in small towns never do. They just pour your cup, give you change, and assume whatever chased you here is worse than what's waiting back home. I watched the news feed again on the muted TV behind the counter. A headline crawled across the bottom: Biolab fire ruled accidental. No survivors. Accidental. That's how they rewrite sin, by pretending it was coincidence. My reflection in the window looked calm. Too calm. But inside, every thought was an echo chamber of ghosts. Anna's last recording, Andrew's laughter, the heartbeat of that thing in the pod. I opened my wallet and looked at her note again. The ink had faded where my thumb always rested. "Don't go home, run," I traced the words with my fingertip. For years, I thought home was a place. Now I know it's a person who no longer answers. By noon, I was on the move again. A bus headed north, seats torn, passengers asleep in their regrets. I sat by the window watching the world roll backward. The driver hummed a tune I couldn't place. It sounded like mercy trying to remember itself. Every town we passed looked the same. Gas stations, forgotten motels, broken signs with half-lit letters. Somewhere between mile markers, I realized I didn't feel hunted anymore. Just hollow, like someone who'd outlived his own purpose. I reached for my wallet again, not for the note this time, but for the photograph folded behind it. Emily at graduation, her smile wide, unguarded. I'd missed that ceremony. I told myself I was busy saving lives. Maybe I was just too scared to face the one I'd already ruined. A boy across the aisle stared at me, curious. Maybe he recognized the face from the news. Maybe he just saw another old man trying to outrun something invisible. Either way, he didn't ask. I didn't offer. The bus rolled on. Somewhere outside, a church bell rang. Noon. The sound was too clean, too alive. It hurt to hear it. When I finally got off the bus, the town didn't have a name I recognized. A handful of houses, a post office, a field where wind carried dust instead of grass. Perfect. I found a small room above a hardware store. The landlord didn't care who I was as long as the rent came in cash. I unpacked what little I had: a few clothes, the note, the recorder, and the flash drive still wrapped in plastic. I placed the drive on the table. It caught a sliver of sunlight, glowing faintly like a heartbeat. I could destroy it right now. Drop it down the drain, crush it under my heel, make it vanish like I should have years ago, but I didn't. Because destruction is easy. Living with the memory is harder. I stared at it, whispering to the empty room, "You're not my burden anymore." And maybe that was the first honest thing I'd said in years. As night fell, I stepped outside. The air smelled of rain and rust. The streets were empty except for the sound of a dog barking somewhere in the distance. A flickering streetlight painted everything in soft amber, like the world was trying to pretend it was still warm. I walked toward the edge of town, where the fields opened up to nothing. My boots left shallow prints in the wet dirt. The horizon was a bruise, purple, fading, infinite. I pulled out my phone, the last one I hadn't destroyed. No signal. Just the recording app still open. I hit record again. "Emily," I said softly, "if this ever finds you, I want you to remember one thing. The real experiment was never in the lab. It was in loyalty. Who we save, who we betray, who we become when both feel the same." I swallowed hard, feeling the words scrape my throat. I ran because love isn't always staying. Sometimes it's leaving before they turn you into something you can't forgive. I looked down at the note in my hand. The paper was nearly falling apart now, but the message still held. "Don't go home. Run." For the first time, I finally understood what she meant. It wasn't an order. It was a gift. I folded the note carefully, tucked it back into my wallet, and turned toward the town lights behind me. They flickered in the distance like a pulse trying to remember its rhythm. I whispered into the recorder one last time. Some men run to live. I ran so they could. Then I pressed stop. The red light blinked once and went dark. Somewhere far away, dawn was waiting, but I didn't go home. Because home was never where I left it. It was what I was still trying to protect.